Well, good afternoon. It is afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rick with AirgunWeb and Gateway to Airguns. This is Let's Talk Airguns, and we are in the middle, quite literally in the middle of a series on like the ultimate airgun scope guides. We did the beginning guide, so if you haven't seen part one, you're going to want to go look at that, because if you're going to follow through the process, we did a lot of groundwork in that one. And I learned some stuff, like make sure you measure the scope before you try and mount it, because if the scope's too long, you can't use it. Fortunately, we had an alternate scope we could drop on there and still use the long one on just another gun. So it worked out, I think, worked out pretty well. Hope you guys have a sense of humor and realize that I make mistakes too. My wife will attest to that I make mistakes, right, hon?
I'm sorry, I was listening to the audio on my phone and haven't got there yet.
She ain't got there. Yeah, I thought she was just being politely quiet about me making mistakes. Anyway, yeah, no, sometimes you make goofs, but cool thing is we recovered it. It was, I think, a fun video, hopefully useful to folks. But if you are new to optics and you're trying to get a real good grounding, make sure you watch all the episodes. If you jump in here in the middle, you're going to miss some stuff we talked about in the first one. So really quickly, I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors, our Gateway Airgun sponsors, our AirgunWeb sponsors, our direct member sponsors with our Patreon page, and our Officers Club members over at airgunarmy.com. Appreciate you guys very much. And if you guys want to learn more, you can check out our websites, and information about all of that will be there. If you'd like to sponsor us, there's information about that too, and surely we could certainly use the help. We are working with the Let's Talk Airguns program, and I don't want to talk too much about this because we spent almost 15 minutes with it last episode. These are podcasts, so hopefully you guys, if you're not seeing it, hopefully I talk enough descriptively that you don't have to see it, but if you don't see it, want to see it, you can see it. We've set up a whole new webpage for Let's Talk Airguns on airgunweb.com/LTA. We're going to post our schedule there. You can see all the episodes will be there. So you guys can go use that as a means to just keep in touch with what's going on with the podcast live stream. Excuse me. As you guys know, YouTube got a little funky. And so we're not going live on YouTube really anymore. But it does now allow me to do stuff like today. I can touch this gun, mount a scope, talk to you guys about it, go through the features and various things. I could never do that on YouTube, but we can do it here. We can do it live. We can have like a really nice show. You guys can join with us and partake either over on Facebook or directly with Vimeo. Vimeo is a great place for us to do this work. It's a paid service, so we're not dealing with all of that other nonsense. And also, if you want to watch our content, whether Gateway to Airguns content or AirgunWeb content, we publish all of that on Vimeo. It's vimeo.com/AirgunWeb. Vimeo does not inject ads, right? So yeah, we're not going to earn any revenue, but we don't earn anything really to speak of at YouTube anyway. So why put yourself through that headache when you can just watch our stuff without ads, ads free, have fun? It's over on our Vimeo page. So you guys can definitely check that out. Let's get right to it, Sue. We talked just a minute ago, literally we were filming just a while ago, about beginning airgun scopes. And do you remember like where we were coming from and where we went to on that video? Do you remember it? Has it been too long already in the last 15 minutes?
It's been a little long for me, frankly.
There's a lot of data. I mean,
there's a lot of information. The one thing I really got out of it was how full Hawke's website is of information and pictures and size of scopes and measurements of scopes, and everything you need to know about the scope is on their website. You just have to find it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I forgot really to make a big deal of that last episode. But I was surprised when I was researching this. This whole series came up because YouTube suggested, hey, viewers really want to know about like the ultimate guide to airgun scopes. And I was saying, well, gosh, that's how much time you got. Maybe we can break this up into like beginner, intermediate, advanced, or enthusiast. So that's how this came about. And then I started looking at Hawke's website, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's some really good information here. It talks about what all the marks mean and the ranges and the distances, how the scopes work, the different classes of scopes, and what differentiates them from like the H2, the H5, the H7s. We went through all of that a little bit on the previous video. So if you also have questions, make sure you watch that, or you just go to their website. It's hawkeoptics.com, and you will learn a lot. Essentially, you've got three sort of classes. You've got H2, which is their entry-level manufacturing class. You have H5, and they have H7. H7 is their frontier line. It's the best of the best that they make. H5 is going to be their endurance and sidewinder, and H2 is your Vantage and Airmax. So that's where things are. That's where things fall in their line. Last episode, we were upgrading a couple brake barrels. Actually, we were going to do one, and the scope was too long, and I could have found that out if I had gone to the website and actually measured it. But anyway, fortunately, I had an Airmax about the same price. An Airmax and Vantage are in the same class, the H2 class, and the Airmax worked great on the Airgun that had a little bit shorter compression chamber. And the Vantage, the big Vantage 4-16, worked great on my my Gammo Hunter Extreme Ultimate 25 cal. So in the end, it worked out great. And both of those scopes are really good, kind of your next airgun scope. So if you're coming off your bundled optic, which would be something like this, which has a lot of limitations. We talked about this again. This doesn't have an adjustable objective or adjustable parallax. It is it's just a basic scope, duplex reticle, so no way to have aim points in your scope if you're having to deal with ranges and adjusting for drop and all of that stuff. So your basic scope works fine. Actually, I'm a fan of this scope, like out of the box usage. But when you want to go further, where do you go from there? Well, those beginning scopes we talked about the last episode are really good if you're just wanting to spend a few $100s without going like super crazy. But what if you want to go a little bit further? Like this gun here is about $400. This is a Crossman Prospect. I actually really like this airgun. It's regulated, has a transfer port power adjuster here on the side, right there.
Hold on, let me put there you go.
Yeah, it has that. It has just a simple gauge over here. I don't know if you can see that gauge, but it doesn't have two gauges. Where do I want it?
Tip it down a little.
Like this?
There, yeah.
Okay, this gauge is really cool. It doesn't have like two gauges. It's just got the one gauge, but here's the thing. The green part is if you're in the green, you're on the red. It's not an adjustable reg or any of that stuff. It's just a really good, solid platform. So it's regulated PCP. I like it. Got a nice side lever. Again, power adjuster and so forth. This one here is in 22 caliber, but we need an optic. And I've used a couple different scopes on this, but I'm looking for a scope that's going to live on this and be the scope I use going forward. So I want more than a Vantage. I want to kind of go the next level. And we are jumping up quite a bit in level here. So the scope I've picked, well, let me see. Do I have some notes here? Yeah, before we get to there, I'm like getting way ahead of myself. Let's talk about, like we talked about the last video, the things that made, that differentiated the beginning optic from like the bundled optic. Now let's look at what is different between like the beginning optic to what we're going to be working with today. So let's talk about that before we jump in, start pulling scopes out and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things we talked about before was having an adjustable parallax. This scope, if your target or your subject is inside, say 25, 30 yards, even 35 yards, if you try and use 9 power, your field of views could be out of focus. If you are looking at 50 yards, you're okay, but anything that's closer, if you try and use the full range magnification, is not going to be in focus. So the way scope companies deal with that is they have an adjustable parallax. So you can do that with a front ring called an adjustable objective, or you can have a side wheel or side focus, which is a side focus scope. So one of the things you want to look at, do I want side focus or do I want adjustable objective? Side focus is usually a little bit more money. So if we look at the Airmax scopes from the last video, they were both front objective adjustable. So like this guy here, this is our Airmax that we installed in the last episode. This is a 4-12. Okay, it has your eyepiece focus, your magnification adjustment, and your parallax adjustment all right here. The difference would be between a front focus, you would look at, say, a side focus. I have a scope right here. We're saving this bad boy. We're saving this mamma jamma for the enthusiast level. This is the Frontier 34. It's the top of the line scope that they make. And it has an adjustment right here. This is adjust your parallax here on the side. So the scope we're going to be installing today, actually for this gun, is also going to be side focus. It's a little bit nicer. Sometimes you get a wheel, and that wheel, having the bigger wheel, makes it easier to turn. Remember when you first tried that, Sue? What'd you think of that?
The wheel?
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Just made it far easier to adjust. It's fine.
I mean, yeah, little things on guns can make big fingers or big hands not work very well. Having the wheel made it easy.
It's very smooth too. The adjustment was very nice. So that side wheel, side focus is a nicer feature. So when you're going from beginner to more intermediate, you probably want to go side focus. The other thing we're going to look at is like the tube size. So this is a 1-inch tube. We talked about this again. You have to bend the light from the objective into that tube, transmit it all the way down here, and then present it through the eyepiece. So if this is narrow, you're having to bend that light more. The more you bend the light, the less efficient your light transmission is. So if you don't have to bend it as far or as dramatically, you got better results coming out the end here. So this is a 1-inch tube. You go to a 30 mil, which is bigger, and like the scope I just showed you, that Frontier is a 34 millimeter tube. So it's getting bigger and bigger, which means that bigger tube, better light transfer. That means at dusk or dawn, when it's just barely starting to get light, it's amazing. You're looking out, you're like, I can't see much. You look through this, or you're just looking out, it's kind of dark. You look through the scope and it's like, who turned on the light? It's pretty cool when you have a really good optic and it's just gathering so much light. It actually enhances your ability to see in those environments. That's what those bigger tubes can help you. Better coating on the lenses. You know, all those things really matter. That's why the Frontier and the Sidewinder are really good. We're going to be talking about those as we get into the enthusiast line. Question, Sue? All right. Okay, so tube size. The next thing we're talking about is objective size. So, again, I keep going back to that previous video. If we look at, hold on. Man, I am so glad we're doing this on Vimeo now, because I couldn't do any of this on YouTube. Oh my gosh. All right, couldn't do it live anyway. All right, so this is the really long scope that wouldn't fit on that other gun. This has a 50 mil objective. See how big this is? So it has to pull that light down into this 1-inch tube. It's not really optimal. It's actually, it's good, but a 40 mil tube or 40 mil objective may actually be, I don't know, maybe a more efficient. I don't know. I don't think they want me saying that go for a 40, not a 50, but I actually like a 40 better. But anyway, when you go to a 1-inch tube though, then that objective being larger is great. And they even go to like 56 mil. So you have the bigger objective means more light can get in here. As long as you don't have to bend it too much or manipulate it too much to get down the tube and out the end, it can be an advantage to having a larger objective because it's going to hopefully gather more light. Okay, so here we have tube size, what kind of focus we're going to have, or a parallax adjustment, talk about what kind of objective size we got. Now let's talk about reticles. So if we go over here to the website,
you want me to go to the website?
Yeah, I'm going to go over here and we're going to be looking at Airmax. So you could really make the argument between Airmax or say, upper end Airmax, upper end Vantage, or maybe even low end Sidewinder. It kind of gets really muddy when you get into that intermediate level. I like Airmax, especially the one we're going to be looking at. It's kind of got a lot of feature set. It's like pretty much a Sidewinder for a few $100s less. So the last scopes we were looking at were about $300 full on MSRP. The scope we're going to be looking at today is a little, well, it's less than 600 bucks. So not quite twice as much money. The scopes we're going to look at beyond this are, again, probably about twice as much money. So it's kind of interesting how that worked out. Didn't plan that, but I'm sorry, my nose itches. Ooh. Okay. But let's look at, I want to just see Airmax. We're back here. I want to look at Hawke. Oh goodness, really bugs me here. All right, rifle scopes, here we are. Let's go to Airmax. So Airmax is really their line. It's really focused on airguns. When you're looking at photos on the Airmax page, it's all going to be airguns, okay? Which Airmax, airguns, that's how you get there. And the reticle choice is actually really straightforward. There's like, you have AMX, AMX illuminated, and AMX illuminated first focal plane. that's it. In other words, you got one reticle. So let me show you this reticle here. It's relatively simple, okay? So you have dots, boxes, and a tree. You see that okay?
I can. Do you, should I move the picture up to the top right here?
No, here, I can just raise it. Just raise it like that.
Okay,
How's
thank
that?
you. That's better.
Okay, so in all the reticles, that's what they're going to look like. Now, the one difference would be when you have the first focal plane, when you zoom in, that reticle is going to grow with you. So it's going to maintain the spacing. And if you want to learn about how this is spaced out, what each dot is, you can go to the more reticle information. It'll walk you through. Now, these are all mil dot standards. So some scopes are MOA based, some are mil dot based, and you can get turrets that adjust either way. It's amazing the flexibility, especially you get up the line, what Hawke gives. You can replace the turrets and switch from millirad. You can switch from that over to MOA. It's really cool how they adjust those things. So it's kind of neat. Anyway, so we have, all right, so this gives you an idea of what all of those measurements mean. Again, if you're looking at this from a basic reticle side, then you put it on 10 power, you've got your everything's going to line up. When you move over to like the first focal plane, okay, same reticle, but now it grows with you.
Up a little?
So as you zoom in, that reticle starts to fill the screen. Maintains your spacing, so regardless of what magnification you're on, the mil spacing, the distance between those units of measure there, the units of indication, remain constant across the entire field of magnification. Now, why is that important? So we didn't really talk about that last time, but we're going to talk about it this time because it's something more that we as more intermediate shooters are going to be trying to consider. So Sue has some just usability issues that she prefers a second focal plane reticle because it's just always the same size. It's there. That's what it is. And she can change the magnification, and she can have it maybe more forgiving on a lower power, like a 4 to 6 or 8 maybe, or maybe even 10. But you know, when she cranks it all the way to see the reticle on first focal plane, it becomes more restrictive on your eye position, your eye relief, and your cheek well and all that stuff. Would you say that's correct, Sue?
Correct.
And all it is for her is just she needs to go out and do some more shooting. The more she shoots, the more she learns that muscle memory, the more she gets used to pulling that up and using it, it becomes second nature. It really becomes not an issue, but that comes over time. Now, right now she's using the ATN LTV, the ATN Excite 5, which she loves that scope. And it's super forgiving. There's a TV screen in it, so the eyepiece doesn't really matter. When you're zooming, you're not optically messing with anything. It's digital, so as long as you can see the screen, which is super forgiving, you're good to go. That's why one of the reasons she really likes it. It's not as precise when you're shooting precision. It doesn't give you the fine adjustments like an optic does, which is, for me, I like that. It's fine, fun. I'll use it, enjoy it for hunting and stuff like that. But when I'm trying to do fine precision shooting, I want to be able to have micro adjustments with my turrets, and like one click is a 1/16 of an inch, depending on how far away you are, that stuff. It really is nice to be able to really just click that right to dead center. You can do that with an optic. You can't really do that with the electronic sights, at least not those. So when you're looking at either first focal plane, where that reticle is going to grow or change with you, going to go with the field of view, or the second focal plane where the reticle stays the same and the field of view changes. If I'm target shooting, like I'm bench rest shooting at a target, when I zoom all the way in on a second focal plane scope, all of those aim points actually just continue to fill the screen. So the target gets bigger, 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 but my point of aim, I have much finer adjustments on all those different aim points when I'm using a second focal plane scope. If I'm just shooting paper at 25, 50, 100 yards, I prefer to go ahead and shoot with a second focal plane scope. If I'm hunting and I'm having to judge distance and hold over and drop and all that other stuff, I prefer using a first focal plane scope. So as you move forward from that basic beginner, not basic, but you come from the beginner scope to now the intermediate, decide what kind of shooting you're going to do. Rick, I'm going to hunt. I hunt, and I could be shooting at 20 yards, I could be shooting at 200 yards. I I need to know that my holdover is consistent. Well, first focal plane's the way to go. And you have to work with it, because when you're zoomed all the way out, that reticle's about that big and it's really hard to see. As you zoom in, it comes with you and it's much easier to see. But sometimes they have a balance they have to strike, because if you make the reticle dark enough, in other words, the line's thick enough with it all the way out, by the time you get it up, they're like freaking 2x4s, and you're blocking you can't see your subject because the reticle's huge, the lines are too big. So there's a balance. I think Hawke strikes a good balance, but it depends on the kind of shooting you're doing. So you're moving up to this gun. This gun's great for target shooting and great for field work. So how are you going to use it? I'm going to bench shoot. I don't mind hunting. I think it's great. I just don't have time to go do it.
I have a question.
Okay.
Does eyesight have anything to do with which scope you should get? Like if you're far-sighted versus...
I shoot with glasses, which correct my sight before I look at the scope. So it doesn't matter.
Shouldn't. Okay.
Okay. Now, if I take these off and shoot with the scope, I can actually adjust the eyepiece to focus, but then I can't see anything else when I'm looking around, right? So you need to move that. There you go. Her green screen is a little funky called Medina right at the moment. Do you get it?
No, but it's fine.
Okay. Anyway, so eyesight really shouldn't, if you have corrective lenses, this should be correct. So you should be fine regardless. Some people shoot with, some people shoot without. I've always shot with glasses. Primarily, these are also my safety glasses, so that's why I use them. I was going to talk about the scope I chose for this gun, because I'm going to be shooting mostly paper, targets, bench rest stuff. I'm looking for that fine-tune adjustability to get on that target, have the most aim points on my target when I'm zoomed all the way in. I'm not going to go with the first focal plane scope. I'm actually going with a second focal plane scope. So the scope I've chosen, I think we've hit all of the... Now I have one more point here. Let me talk about this last point. Magnification at range and clarity. Okay, so I'm going with a 4:16. I think that is adequate for me, and my use is like out to 100 yards. If I was going to be shooting further, if I was going to be shooting regularly further than that, I may want to look at the 6-24. But I'm going to shoot mostly inside 100 yards. 4:16 is a good magnification range. What I have found that distinguishes a budget scope from a better scope is when I zoom all the way in, like whatever the max magnification is, and I zoom all the way in and I'm like looking at my target at 100 yards. If it's clear and I can focus and it's tack sharp focus and it looks good and it doesn't look like I'm looking through the end of a bottle, I call that scope good to go. Now, the more expensive the glass is, like as we get to the enthusiast level, it's even better. I have a 5-30, that Frontier 5-30, crank it all the way to 30, first focal plane, zoom all the way in, and it's bright, clear, crisp, regardless of the magnification at whatever range I'm looking at. It's gorgeous. I just set up an 8-32 Sidewinder on what gun was that? That was the Brocock Sonoran 30 cal, and it was awesome. So beautiful. Just crank it all the way up. 32, clear, bright, just gorgeous. But that's like a very expensive scope comparatively. It's probably twice what this one is. So when you start looking at that higher end stuff, what you're getting is better optics, better coatings, better light transmission, higher quality glass, and that's really going to show when you're zooming all the way in and you're shooting further out. At 50 yards, you know, frankly, the budget scopes probably work pretty doggone good, really, for all intents and purposes. It's not a big deal. It's when you want to start getting more performance at those further ranges zoomed all the way in. That's when the higher end glass is really going to start showcasing the differences. All right, so why did I pick Airmax? Why did I pick this Airmax? I picked Airmax because the upper end of Airmax or the upper end of Vantage, I could have done either one. But I like Airmax because it's specifically designed for air guns, and that's what we're talking about today. It's just a solid optic. I've used Airmax scopes for a long time, and they're just really, really, really good. This one's 4:16. It is not first focal plane, but it is side focus, and it comes with a huge set of accessories. Let's take a look at that real quick. We go over here. So first of all, this model is the 30, so that's the 30 mil tube, so bigger tube. Wide angle, has a greater field of view, and it's side focus. Yes, Sue? Do you have a question? No,
Nope.
it's just stretching. So if we go down here, so these are all the features. Again, I'm not going to bore you guys with this. You can go read it yourself. But any scope you're interested in, they're all going to have this profile. Was so impressed with the data Hawke presents to folks that are looking to buy their stuff. It's not like I've looked at every other website, but I have looked at a lot of websites, and I don't know of any that are this thorough in how they present the technical data. It's really impressive. Okay, so wide angle. We want to know what that means. Is that something we click on, or does it just tell us what it is? Okay, just what it is. So we have a little bit wider view than standard, which is cool. Gives you more field of view when you're zoomed all the way in. So you can learn more about the reticle here. You can learn more about the size. All the different focuses, all the different features, excuse me. It tells you our click value here is 1/10 millirad. So if you know what all those measurements are, and the last thing we actually talked a little bit about the difference between MOA and millirad, just very, very briefly. But there's going to be a link that if you want to know what that means, you can go to that link and read it. It's pretty short, but basically you have the difference between standard and metric yet again. So MOA would be your standard sort of thinking, and millirad would be your more metric side. All right, so look at all the accessories it comes with, Sue. We have obviously the box, really nice box. Sue talked about how much she appreciates the box.
Yeah.
We have our manual. We have our reticle booklet, lens cloth, sunshade.
Sorry, hold up. What's a reticle booklet? Is it a manual on the reticle?
Yeah, exactly. It talks about the reticle and how to use it. So if you want to know how to use all those spacings and dots and what they all mean, they actually have a book for you. You just got to read the book. You have a sunshade. We have the lens caps. These are really nice lens caps. They're metal. They close down. They lock in. They're actually really nice. They have the lens cap tool. And then we have our side wheel. So if everything goes well today, we're going to throw that side wheel on this. I believe it's going to work fine on this gun. Gosh, my nose itches. I apologize. We're going to throw that side wheel on, and hopefully it works and looks awesome. So if you need, like, I lost my manual, I need my reticle booklet, well, you can get it right again off their website. Going
really cool.
on, if you need an accessory, you've lost your lens cap, or you've lost your sunshade, or you lost the cap thing where your battery goes, guess what? They actually have the accessories. Again, from a well thought out presentation of you guys, of supporting consumers, really, really impressive. Some of the best I've seen. All right. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this scope. I'm going to set the gun aside for a minute. I have a gun rest that I've purchased. I need to get installed. I think I can get it over here. I have like 10 guns on the wall. It'd be really cool.
Would be nice.
All right.
And if anyone has questions, please post them.
Yes.
And I will pass them on to Rick, and you can get your answers live.
Okay, so there's our scope, big chunky box. Let's see what we got in here. Oh, come on. All right. Drum roll, yes. Drum roll, please. All right, so on the top, we have our side wheel. We have also our tools. We're going to fully kit this one out, by the way. So we're going to put the sunshade on. We're going to do all that fun stuff. Okay, here's our booklets and all that other fun stuff. The scope's actually relatively small compared to the box, but hey, there we go. There's all our bits and pieces. All right.
Again, those boxes are awesome.
Yeah, they're very well. They're like Apple boxes. They're really well done. Okay. So there's our scope. It's nice and compact. Here's our power adjuster, 4 to 16. Oy, it's nice and snug. We have our lens cap here. Nice metal too. It's all like nice and solid metal caps. So our adjustment turrets there. Really, really cool.
Good quality.
Yeah, we have our focus. Now this is actually pretty smooth, but it's way smoother when we add that wheel to it. And then here's where our battery goes. So this is an illuminated reticle. Let's see. Oh, there it is, bright. Okay, so it lights up, I'll show you what it looks like. It lights up not the whole reticle, but just the inner part of the reticle. So back to this, which we talked in detail last video about the difference between like etched glass or wire. When you're looking at intermediate level scopes, only look at like etched glass reticles and make sure you get the one that's got all the aim points you're looking for. The AMX reticle of this, some may think, oh, I want more aim points. Well, that's when you would transition over to, say, the Sidewinder or the Frontier. They're going to have some really cool reticles. When we get to the enthusiast video, we're going to get to that. But yeah, this is etched glass, really, really nice. Let's see if I can, let me go over here to the Airmax. I wonder if they'll show me, yeah, okay. See how that's red in the center?
Yeah.
So just that center part lights up. It's really clean. It doesn't have a bunch of bleed over. It's really, really nice. Let me make sure I turn that off. Oh, that's my focus. Okay, turn it off. All right. Now, let's deal with the mounts. Now, this has a slotted rail, so we need slotted mounts. Now, I'm using high mounts.
Can you tip it to the upper camera?
I'm using high mounts. So people are going to say, why are you using high mounts? The scope's too high. Well, there's a couple reasons for that. One, dude, you're not shooting 1,000 yards. You don't have a sniper career. If you do, okay, fine. Get lower mounts and really optimize it. But generally speaking, we're shooting, what, 50, 100 yards, usually at fixed subjects. Once you get it dialed in, it's fine. You don't need to get that anal about having it right, like blistering close to the barrel. There are some advantages, especially when you're dealing with really long-range shooting. But for the most part, guys, just relax. It's okay. We're going with high mounts. On the other reason is because this magazine sits way above the receiver. So if you get low mounts, it's possible you're going to bang into this magazine and not even be able to use it.
So that's another thing to take into consideration when you're buying a scope for a gun, an air gun.
Yeah, it's really the mounts. You got to make sure you get the right mounts. This is great. This actually has an adjustable cheek piece. So if you're using high mounts, you also need to make sure you have enough clearance for the objective. This is a 50 mil objective. So this should be fine. You know, we're going to probably be about like that. So we're going to need to make sure we have enough clearance, right? So if you don't have enough clearance, you get like a 56 mil objective and you're trying to use low mounts, they're not going to work. So I just go with high mounts because generally speaking, they work just fine. And they're close enough. For the kind of shooting I'm doing, they're more than optimal. Okay, get my tools. Now Hawke mounts come with the little tool. So you generally don't need it to go hunt one. Okay, here are our scope mounts. Now I don't know where these are ultimately going to line up. Oh, here's something. This may be self-explanatory, but let me just mention it. I didn't mention it last time. You see you have these screws here on these mounts, babe?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to make sure they're all on the same side. Sometimes I've seen them where they reverse them. Don't do that. Have them all on the same side.
Is there a reason not to do them?
Sometimes they're not made great, and maybe they're slightly off. And at least these will be off in the same way. It's a little bit easier than if they're like this, and it's like really off, and you can't bring the scope into adjustment.
Do they have different screws on each side? Or
What do you mean?
Like, how do you tell which side is different?
Well, there's no screws on the other side.
Oh.
There's only a screw on one side. There's just a hole here.
Oh, okay.
So I do not know where this is going to line up.
You're talking about the stuff on the bottom, not the top.
Yeah.
I was looking at the top.
Okay, so we'll see if that's going to work. I think this is relatively short. So yeah, we don't think we need, I think we're going to be on the back. Sometimes you'll need to split it. We'll see. We'll see if we need to. I'm not going to tighten these down. We'll go here. Take these off. Are you showing top view?
I'm showing both.
Cool.
Top and then insert of the
Perfect.
front view.
It looks good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm using Hawke mounts because they're what I have. I've used other mounts. So using a bullpup. Sometimes I need more height just for my body shape. And these aren't quite high enough, so I will go, there's a mount by West Hunter, which is adjustable, and that's really nice. Supposedly, they also have mounts that allow you to change the cant without damaging your scope. Hawke makes a set of inserts, just little plastic inserts, so if you don't have enough up adjustment or don't have enough down adjustment, you can drop these inserts. They just slap right here, and they'll align your scope and give you an extra 25-minute angle adjustment, which is a lot. So that's super handy. So there's some things you can do if it doesn't line up perfectly and you're trying to get it dialed in, or you would like to be more optically centered with your scope. There's some things you can do to make that happen. It's good. It's good practice. It's better, gives you better accuracy long term. That's going to be too far back. That's going to be too far. All right, let's move this to the front. Okay. Oh, that is just, oh man. The days of the slightly out of cattywampus scopes. Okay, we're going to push this forward. It does just fit, but I want to move this one forward a little bit. Then we're going to put the tops on. Make sure our magazine goes in and out. You see how I need this clearance under here?
Yeah.
So here's the magazine.
Do the front angle. Do it again. Oh, because of the magazine, yeah.
Okay. You see you have this with plenty of clearance now, but if the bell was over it, we'd still have clearance, right? So if we went with lower mounts and for whatever reason, the magazine on the gun you're working with was right under this, and I've had that happen, you could be banging that and you'd be wishing you had bought high mounts. So I know you probably, I want to get lower, but it actually works out well. And we don't have a lot of clearance here. So the high mounts are generally, with air guns, guys, generally the way to go, unless the rail, you've got like an integrated higher rail. I'm hoping this is going to be a good eye relief position here, because I don't have much room to adjust. Okay. It's warm out there today. It's 106 now, almost 107. I'm glad we're in here, hon.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe I'll have to go home and put the swamp cooler on for sure. Poor Jack. Jack's our dog. I'm sure he's like sweating to the oldies there.
Yeah. If Jack's anything like Butch, he's fine.
Yeah, he's all right.
He is a dog.
Yep, he's our dog though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are. I'm going to try and get these evened up before I start cranking them down, Sue. Look at that. All right, so that is there. This is here. I think we're in good shape. I don't want to put too much tension on these because I need to be able to move this around a bit. So I have a little bit of movement back, forth, and left and right. Let's pop the lens caps. And I think that looks pretty good. I think it looks good on the gun. I know I say that, you know, if I'm shooting it, I ain't looking at it, but you know, it's not looking nice. It's kind of nice. It looks nice. That's pretty much, could almost go a little bit forward. Let me see here. I might go a little bit forward with that, of all things, which is cool. I'll just slide this a little bit like that. Okay, so we want to make sure our reticle's square. I've talked about this often, the way I do it. Again, I'm not shooting 1,000 yards all the time. I'm shooting at a fixed distance, so I'm going to get close enough for me. What I do is I look down the gun and I make sure that that reticle is cutting my receiver right in half. If it's canted this way or that way, I make it center so that it's cutting the receiver right in half. And that generally gets me where I need to be. It's pretty good. All right, so I need to adjust my focus, my eyeball focus, or my eyepiece focus. So we've talked about this a lot. There's multiple points of adjustment or setup on this scope. Position is one. Focus for your eye. So this focuses the reticle, not your picture, not your sight picture. This focuses the reticle. If you want to bring your picture into focus, that's this side lever here, which we're going to mount the wheel to right here. Okay. So I'm going to make sure my reticle's in focus, and then we'll adjust where our eye caps are. Right about there. Okay, so right about there is in focus. Now, obviously, that's not convenient. So what we're going to do is take our tool. Are we on top? We have a top.
Yeah, you're on top.
Okay. So this goes right here, and this we can adjust. We open this or loosen just a little bit.
Does it magnetize or something to it?
No, there's a little notch in this little wrench.
Okay.
And then we can, there it is. Move that to where you need it, and then you can tighten it up. So it's a little wrench. Spanner wrench. There. So now that's lined up. We're going to do the same to the front, because what we want to do is install the sunshade. Before I do that, though, I need to lock this down because I already mucked up my positioning. And it's going to work like that, okay? I want to drop this on my computer. That would be not good. That's good. Good enough for now. I will probably, when I take this down to the range, I may have to fine tune it. Get down the bench, start doing some shooting, and you find that there's a little bit of tweak here and there, not a big deal. Take your tool with you. Okay, I'm tightening these down on a cross pattern so that you're not going down on one side too much. You don't need to get real aggressive because this gun doesn't have any recoil to speak of. And you've got that scope tape in the mounts that help with the holding the scope still. So you don't need to get real aggressive. You want it snug. You don't have to wrench on it. It's fine. There you go. Good to go. All right. Next thing we're going to do, we'll go ahead and put the cover on.
Sunshade?
Sunshade, thank you. Yes. So why would you want a sunshade? Well,
to block the sun?
Thank you, Sue. Yes, to block the sun. We shoot out the sun. Yes, it's in the name. We shoot out the sun a lot, and this makes it so even though you may have sun coming your way, it protects that objective. It blocks it, provides shade, makes it much easier to shoot even when you have some conditions that aren't ideal. Because while we try and shoot in the shade, often, sometimes there's no shade to shoot in. Okay. So there's little notches there. We're going to open this up. Okay. Go ahead and take this all the way off. And during Expo, I learned a trick, which I will share with you. Because getting this started on the sunshade can be a bit of a challenge. Come on off of there. All right. So here's our shade. And there's our ring. Now this actually comes out. Okay. So when you're trying to get this lined up without stripping it or cross-threading it, can be a challenge. So here's the trick I learned. Shut it, and then that pushes it forward, and it can get you basically started on the sunshade. Theoretically. Okay. And once you're started, you can go ahead and get it.
You're off camera.
Sorry. Once you're started, you can go ahead and get it going. get it basically there, and then you can use your wrench to get the final bit. Okay, so I don't want to tighten that down all the way. I don't know where we're going to end up here. This is another thing. It's nice that we have the high mounts because we have just barely enough clearance to get that rotated. This is barely touching the barrel when it comes through. All right, so now we have the sunshade installed. We get that lined up where we want it. Take our wrench. Okay, a little more to go. I need light.
It's finicky work.
It is. It is. There it is.
I think you broke your nail.
Huh?
I think you broke your nail.
I did. That's all right. There. Good. I broke a nail. All right. So we're not done yet. Okay. Any points we want to talk about on Airmax before we do our final? All right. So I think we've hit it. We've talked about clarity at range, clarity at magnification. We've talked about the side focus versus front focus as far as the parallax. Yeah, I think we've got it. The feature set on this, you get all these really cool accessories. Price point on this is like $580, and that is full on MSRP. So you're going to find it for less than that at a retailer because they can sell it map pricing versus full retail. So that's cool. So you have some options there, save a little money. But yeah, there you go. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this towards the camera so you can see what I'm doing because it's on the other side. So the one thing that you want to check on before throwing your side wheel on is what side does your magazine load from? So there are more and more air guns that the magazine loads from this side, right? So as you can imagine, if you had this on there, that's going to pose a problem.
Yeah.
So fortunately, this gun loads from this side. Yay! I'm decocking this every time because I don't want it sitting there. Even though it's unloaded, I don't want it to be sitting there with a hammer cock. So I'm decocking it every time. So we'll take this, and there's these little nubbies here. And what you're going to do is get this where there's indexes here. Can you see that?
Yes.
See these indexes here?
Yes.
Okay, so on this
Not
wheel,
clearly, but yes.
all right, so on this wheel we have corresponding indexes.
Okay.
So we're going to find the 15, which is what I'm on here, and the little slots line up with, there it is, get on there. It just presses on and sits in there. It's really pretty snug and just rides on that like that.
It's a little out of focus. There you go. It's finally focused.
It's in focus. You can get it on there as snug as you can. All right. On there. Almost there. It goes on really tight. So as we are looking at, so I'm looking here, 20 is lined up with 20, 30s with 30, 50 with 50, and so forth. So now turning this is so much easier. So when you're on the bench, you're doing this, it's just such a much smoother and more enjoyable. It's just so much more smooth and enjoyable doing this than trying to wrench on that little knob. Fortunately, this gun allows for that.
I'm sure for people with arthritis or something like that.
I hadn't thought about that.
It's probably wonderful.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're probably right. It's just really nice. So there you go. It's a Hawke Airmax. Wide angle side focus, 30 mil tube, 4-16. For this gun, for hunting, for target shooting, it's really ideal. Now, we got a $400 gun and a basically say $500-600 optic. Some may say, oh, that's too much. And if it's too much for you, I get it, it's too much. Others are going to go, well, I spend about as much on my glasses as I got on my gun, plus or minus, and so it's probably just about right. Here's one thing to consider. I did a series for Airgun Depot years ago, and this is going to be it. We're going to wrap it up, and then we're going to take a break. Maybe I may have lunch and then come back and finish, because we have one more episode to do. I did a series on which is better, an expensive gun, cheap scope, cheap gun, expensive scope. And here's the kicker. I found out that an expensive gun with an expensive scope shoots the best. Go figure. But the reality is that if you put money in a good scope, you're gonna move it from gun to gun to gun to gun. It's gonna go with you. So if you invest in a good quality optic, even if it's on, say, this gun, I could take this, swap the rings, put it on my R12, and I've got a killer setup, right? So this would be more expensive gun budget, expensive scope budget gun. But this expensive scope, and I'm doing expensive for intermediate kind of budgets, it's going to transfer to shoot. I mean, I would put this on any of my high-end guns, and it's going to perform very, very well. Now, we're not done. We've got one more episode to do. We're going to transition to the enthusiast level. We've got a Sidewinder. We've got the Frontier first focal plane. So if you want to learn more, we're going to take a break. We're going to be about an hour or so, probably. We're going to take a break. We've got to do some errands to come back. We're going to finish that. We'll finish up with that video. But hopefully you guys are learning something about beginners, intermediate, and now we're going to talk about enthusiast scopes. And I hope it's been interesting and enjoyable for you guys. This has been the ultimate, can I use the word? We're going to use it. Ultimate Airgun scope buying guide for intermediate scopes. So we're going to kick over to the enthusiast next, and I think that's about it. Super huge thank you to all of our sponsors, Hawke Optics, of course, and everybody else that helps us do what we do, our Patreon members, our Officer Club members, you guys, the viewers that watch us that hopefully get something out of this content. We really appreciate you. Appreciate you hanging out with us, for engaging with us. If you have questions and comments, put them down below, and I will do what I can to make sure to get back to you. This will be it for now. This is Rick. Let's Talk Airguns. I'm with AirgunWeb and Gateway Airguns. Thanks for watching.